Sup D&D bags, my name's Tom and welcome back to another item of the week where I look at weapons, armours, items and trinkets that you can use in your roleplay campaigns. Today we're going to be looking at the HellFire Gauntlet. So to look at, the HellFire Gauntlet isn't too different from your regular plate gauntlet. However, it has a red gem embedded into the back of the hand and a magic circle etched around it. Along the forearm there are other unknown symbols as well as depictions of fire. Now, unlike its appearance, this gauntlet reeks of magical energy, and any reasonable arcana check would be able to detect that this gauntlet has some massive magical power. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what it looks like. Now let's talk about what it does. Well, as I mentioned, the HellFire Gauntlet holds a huge amount of fire magic energy, allowing you to manipulate and create fire magic. Now, regardless of any magical ability the user may have, the HellFire Gauntlet allows the user to conjure forth fire magic at will. Therefore, the user can cast Wall of Fire or Firestorm. Now, the Gauntlet only has 1d4 uses per day, but the user may decide to use Wall of Fire or Firestorm for any of those uses. But before I get ahead of myself, you may have already heard of Wall of Fire as a basic D&D spell. However, Firestorm is actually Ice Storm, but slightly altered. Now, Firestorm differs from Ice Storm in that instead of ice hailing from above, slamming into enemies, the fire actually rises up through the ground, tearing chunks of earth out and slamming it into enemies. Now, when the user utilises the abilities of the HellFire Gauntlet, the red gem on the back of the hand flares up into a bright orange. Additionally, the user may bypass any materials needed for those two spells by using the Gauntlet. However, they must gesture using the HellFire Gauntlet for the somatic part of the spell. And finally, the bonus ability of the HellFire Gauntlet is that the user takes half of any fire damage taken. Okay, so we've talked a bit about what the Gauntlet can do. Now, where would you find it? Now, the most likely place to find a Gauntlet of this fiery power would be in the Sea of Fire, in an entirely different plane of existence. Now, in relation to this, perhaps the Gauntlet is a relic of a long-forgotten war. Brave knights of the material plane marched into the Sea of Fire to battle demons that were coming through. Now, as the war raged on for years, the knights started picking up on the fire magic the demons were using and started imbuing it in their gauntlets, literally fighting fire with fire. Now, if your adventurers were to happen to pop into the Sea of Fire, perhaps they would find this gauntlet as a remnant of an old battle on a desecrated battlefield. Alternatively, perhaps this gauntlet is held in a museum as a remnant of the long-forgotten war. Now, another way the party could find the HellFire Gauntlet is perhaps it belongs to a fire giant. Now, let's say this fire giant has uncharacteristically travelled off by himself and is now revered by the local population as a god. Now, instead of destroying everything in his wake, the fire giant actually appreciates his godly status and has the local people do things for him. If the party were to stumble into this area and find this fire giant, perhaps he would task them with a quest and reward them with the HellFire Gauntlet afterwards. Alternatively, perhaps if the party were to liberate the local people from the tyranny of the fire giant, they could claim the gauntlet themselves. And finally, perhaps the HellFire Gauntlet is actually in the possession of a very powerful wizard, a wizard that specialises in fiery magic. In fact, this wizard could be looking for the final component to complete the HellFire Gauntlet, the gem that fits into the back of the hand. Now, if the party were to venture off and find this hidden gem in a dungeon or another plane of existence and bring it back to the wizard, he would fix it to it, study it, and then gift it to the party. Okay, so we've talked about finding the HellFire Gauntlet, but now let's talk about some alternate versions. Now, one alternate version for the HellFire Gauntlet could be that it has space for other gems on the back of the hand. With each extra gem that you collect, you power up the Wall of Fire and Firestorm abilities, doing increasing damage. This would act as if you were using a higher level spell slot when casting those spells. These gems could be scattered across planes of existence, including the Sea of Fire, or perhaps they're held by powerful wizards. Another alternate version for the HellFire Gauntlet could be that the user is completely invulnerable to fire. By wearing the gauntlet, they can move through walls of flames or even into lava and be completely unscathed. With an ability like this, the gauntlet is likely to be the possession of a very, very powerful entity associated with fire. And finally, playing on the theme of fire, perhaps the gauntlet is a gift from dragons to humanity. The HellFire Gauntlet could be constructed from dragon fire and steel, symbolising the truce between humanity and dragons. Therefore, when the user dons the HellFire Gauntlet, not only can they understand and speak Draconic, but dragons will actually be willing to listen to them. This would make a very interesting item if your campaign has lots of Dragonborns or dragons in it. But with everything in Item of the Week, take it with a pinch of salt. Tailor these items to fit your party and your campaigns. And most of all, have fun. Hey, thanks for watching Item of the Week. Be sure to leave a comment down below on how your players reacted to this week's item. Also, be sure to check out my channel for more Item of the Week and other D&D content. Hitting that subscribe button will make you the first to know when new videos come out. And finally, don't forget to drop me a follow on Twitter and check out the full Item of the Week archive in the link in the description.